double whammy episode of the At the Pylon podcast alongside Chandler Betts. My name is Nick Antonakas. Chandler, I hope you had a Merry Christmas. We have a ton to talk about, but how was your Christmas before we dive into it?
It was pretty good. It was definitely better after our Christmas Eve performance. But
Bruh.
I hey, I
Why are you
I've
happy?
I stand on this that I will never root for the Patriots to lose.
It
We
was
will talk.
nice to see a win. We'll talk about it, of course. It was nice to see a win, but a lot of sting is happening following that game. We're going to talk about that and more. We got a full fallout of the Broncos following this game against the
Yeah,
Patriots on Christmas Eve. Russell Wilson supposedly not staying with the team after this year. He's going to get cut in March. That's what the rumor is right now. We'll
yep,
talk
March
all
15th.
about it. And as top of that, we're going to talk about the Bills game coming at you this Sunday on New Year's Eve, 1 p.m. So a lot to talk about. Let's not waste any time, Chandler. Let's start off. The Patriots won. Every
Yes.
time we pick a play of the game, Chandler, what do you think it's going to be this time?
I think that there's only one play it can be. I think it has to be the last play of the game.
It has to be, and you are right about that. My selected play is Chad Ryland's 56-yard field goal to win the game. As soon as he was setting up for that, Chandler, I was like, all right, this is best case scenario. We played a great game.
Yeah.
He's going to miss this field goal. We're going to head to overtime, and we're going to lose. Good times for all. We move up in the draft. But nope. After missing a PAT earlier in the game, missing I think it was a 37-yard field
I think
goal.
so, yeah.
37-yard field goal miss. This dude goes out there in Mile High in front of everybody on Christmas Eve,
Yep.
nails a 56-yarder down the middle to win the Patriots the game. I was just shocked.
To be Scrooge for a second, the ball does fly more in Mile High because of the altitude. But all credit to Chad Ryland for the mentality to be able to have just been so poor throughout the whole season, and then just to step up, have the short-term memory to make such a big kick and a long kick too. After he missed a 37-yarder and he hits a nearly 57 yards, 19-yard difference. Very impressive from Chad Ryland. Am I still out on him? Absolutely. But he might end up on that carousel of kickers that I always talk about when I was looking for a Chad Ryland replacement. He can end up on that carousel where he'll go around to a bunch of teams. Maybe he'll get a contract from someone for a year, kick for a season, get cut, rinse and repeat. But that's the best moment of his career so far. So shout out Chad Ryland.
And yeah, honestly, Chandler, following the game, Matt Slater had a very nice speech lined up for Chad, praising his mental toughness, all this
Yeah,
stuff. It was a feel good moment. Don't get me wrong. I have not been a fan of Chad Ryland all year
no
long just because of his poor
vocal enemy.
play. But, it was nice to see the guy bounce back, make a kick. I always
Yeah,
feel bad for kickers because, I always think of myself. I don't think I could ever do something like that. Even if I could kick the ball that far, it'd just be way too much pressure
yeah,
to sink those kicks on a weekly basis and have that much scrutiny go against you if you slip up, like
yeah.
Chad Ryland has. I mean, no offense, but he's slipped up many times this year. So to get through that, power through mentally, and make this kick, shout out to you, Chad Ryland, because it was a big play, biggest play of the game. But talking about some other big moments from this game, Chandler, Bailey Zappi enters the contest, fumbles on the first play of the
Yep.
game. That sets up the Broncos inside the 10-yard line. They get stood up at the goal line, a goal line stand by New England, stays 0-0 in the first
Huge.
quarter. It was just a very back and forth game. At one point, as an Ezekiel Elliott pass for 15 yards, he hurdled the defender for the touchdown.
Yep.
That put the Patriots up 16 points. From there, the Broncos worked their way back, tying things up at 23. It was a very back and forth game that was honestly really entertaining to watch. Similar to the Chiefs game that we had some prime moments, but obviously I'd say there was some more star moments in this game than there was in the Kansas City game.
Definitely. And one that we haven't talked about yet is Marte Mapu and his fumble recovery and forced
Yep.
fumble after the Zeke touchdown. I think it was right after that one.
Yep.
And God, that was the moment I just said, I was like, oh, we're gonna win this football game. That's crazy. Because frankly, I know it ended up being a close game. His Denver team stinks. Like
They stole the bag.
Russ isn't playing bad. We'll get to that. But the way that they're calling their offense is so formulaic. I literally ended last episode talking about how I was about to pick the Patriots to win, but I was like, Sean Payton's a good coach. He's not going to lose this game. I haven't, evidently, I haven't watched enough Broncos games because even though they were on such a hot streak, their play calling was so pedestrian. And now all of this is coming out because of the Russell Wilson situation, which again, I will cover later, talking more about how we've gotten there.
Yeah, it was really just an interesting, I guess, unfolding of the game to say the least. Zappy, after that first fumble, he held his own pretty well throughout the game. Uh, 2 touchdowns, above 200 yards. I don't have the exact number right in front of me, but regardless, it was another game that was sort of carried by our defense. Christian Barmore with debatably the best game of his career. He had 3 sacks. He was actually
Oh yeah,
asked yesterday if this was the best game of his career. He, I guess, humorously said this was kind of bouncing around on X. He said, no, got to keep going. So, I mean, just taking a look at your previous games of your career is, I guess, I mean, it's a good mentality to have, keep moving forward, but
sure.
this was definitely a career highlight for Christian Barmore, whether or not he believes it or not. So it was great to see that. Our defense, as always, was stepping up. People were ripping our secondary to shreds, Chandler. I don't know if it's because I tuned in a little bit late at like the mid-second quarter because I was at church,
Mm.
but I thought our secondary played pretty well
I agree,
considering how banged
especially
up they are. Like
exactly,
we had
especially with
like fourth
Jonathan.
line guys in there playing pretty well.
Yeah, Jonathan Jones went down for a little bit. Sean Wade went down for a little bit. The absolute resolve that this secondary has been able to show, and of course, we had so many injuries coming into the game. We haven't even talked about that. Um, the defense as a whole, very impressive. Really, like they kept trying to run the ball, and it was going nowhere. And they only started to come back when they let. This is going to be the theme of the episode. It's going to be they finally started to come back when they let Russell Wilson throw the ball. When they actually let him get into a pseudo 2 minute offense, into a really 4 minute offense, I guess. But they weren't playing well when they were playing inside their formulaic offense, and when they let Russ cook, Russ started to cook. They started to put up points, but Barmore had an incredible game. Um, really, just the entire defense. It was a team effort, but he was absolutely the star.
Yeah, and you're right about that, Chandler. The second we saw the Broncos down 16, heading into the fourth, of course, you have to throw the ball. You have no option to really run because time's not on your side. The second that started happening is when the Broncos started steamrolling their way back into this game. And I was honestly impressed by Russell's play.
Yeah.
Obviously, being on the side that has not watched a lot of Broncos football. I mean, if you think you haven't watched a lot, I have probably watched way less than you. So coming off this whole shtick from last year, I was kind of teeter tottering back and forth on the side of, is Russ washed? Is Russ even good in Denver anymore? Was that trade a total bust? I mean, we can get into the whole like trade value, whatever, later or never. I don't really
We
know.
should get into that.
We will probably when we talk about this whole benching situation that just unfolded earlier today. But regardless of how you look at it, I think Russ still has the ability to play football in it. I mean, after watching this game, I was a little bit impressed because I wasn't expecting him to come out and lead his team back pretty easily. It
Yep.
seemed like he was doing it fluidly when he was down 16. Of course, you're going against a bad team, quote unquote, but the Patriots, they have an outstanding defense. You can't take that away from them, even
Yes.
with all these injuries and their record. You have to credit their defense, regardless of the situation that they're in.
Yeah, Russ was really, really impressive. Again, it's a mental fortitude thing. We see with a little comparison, harkening back to the old times. When we got Cam Newton in, people were excited. I wasn't really excited, if you remember. Uh,
Me
I
neither.
said that it wasn't
Actually,
even
I was
gonna.
kind of excited at the start.
Oh, it was entertaining for 3 weeks, for four
Yeah.
weeks, but I was very firm on my prediction that year. I think I said we went up from 6-10 to 7-9, and what did we end at? 7-9. Um, but overall, Russ has so much more in the tank, and you can see it when you couldn't see that with Cam, really. Russ can still be a top 20 quarterback in the NFL, a top 15 quarterback in the NFL, I really believe. And where that's going to be, because it's definitely going to be somewhere. I think it might be paired with some team getting a rookie quarterback that isn't ready. I'd love to see him mentor Caleb Williams personally. I just thought of that right now. That's a dream scenario for both of them, actually.
Yeah.
But we'll see exactly how that comes out this year.
Yeah, and I guess that's the perfect time, Chandler, to move into this whole Russell Wilson debacle that took place following this Patriots game. Obviously, on paper, you're a Denver team. You're going into this game. If you lose coming out of it on nonstop on the screen, they were showing the graphic. You win this game, Denver, you got a 50-50 shot at the playoffs.
Yep.
You lose, you are down to a
5.
5%
Yep.
chance of making the playoffs. So this was a huge game for them. At home, Christmas Eve, prime time, you lose, and from there, everything just fell apart. Today, reports came out that the Broncos announced that Jared Stidham is going to be taking over. I mean, what a callback.
Oh
And
my God.
honestly, as I was writing this rundown today, Chandler, one day I'm going to make a video essay as to how the Patriots, how Jared Stidham was indeed the franchise quarterback for the Patriots, just because of like the dominoes that cause things to fall. God forbid
Ugh.
Wilson lands in New England and mentors Williams and then sets us up for life. Who knows if that's even possible at this point, but it was just something funny that I thought of. But
Yeah.
still, regardless, ironic that Jared Stidham, the I guess famous quarterback when it comes to my takes,
Yep.
is taking over for Denver. The whole situation, Chandler, is surrounding contract talks. Apparently, this has
Yes.
been an issue for 2 months. They've been trying to make Russell Wilson rework his contract. Next year, he's owed $37 million, I believe, is the amount.
I have the exact numbers in front of me if you'd like
Go
them.
for it. Shoot him.
So via sports contract, so there's two different types of releases in football. To really simplify, a pre-March 17th and a post-June 1. Every team gets, I believe it's one post-June 1 designation, which means you can cut a player before that date, but you designate it as post that. It's better for your contracts. If they were to do a pre-March 17th release for Russell Wilson, it would mean 85 million of dead cap in 2024, 39 million cash being paid to him. Designated him as a post June 1 would mean a $35.4 million hit in 2024, same amount of cash. And a 49.6 million dead cap in 2025. Either way, this would be an unprecedented release. That is the understatement of the century. That is an absurd amount of money, and we know this has been the case for as long as this contract has existed. It's absurd.
Wait,
It's
can
not
I
working
just
out for
ask
them.
one thing?
Yes.
Why would you even cut him if you're going to be stuck with how much? Would you say 80 million in dead cap, 38 of which is cash? Why would you do that? Why?
Because you don't want him in the locker room, I guess. You're fully ready to move on. You're acknowledging that you're not going to sign any free agents because free agents are going to be bothered by the fact that you snaked Russell Wilson for all of his money. Because I say snaked, he's still going to get ungodly amounts of money. But to talk about the reports, uh, they are alleging, or Russell Wilson and reports coming from Andrew Schultz and Diana Rossini are alleging that the Broncos in October told Russell Wilson that he needed to waive his injury clause, which was going to make his contract for the season fully guaranteed if he was not able to pass a physical on maybe it might be March 17th. I don't know the exact date, some date, whatever it be. And they demanded that he waive that or they were going to bench him. And then they started to win games. And now that they finally had a bad loss, I guess, they're
Yeah, I know that
benching
too.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is a not a good thing to be known as the team that did that. It's going to scare free agents away. If your agent gives you two offers exactly the same, you're going to take the one that you have more faith in. And that's not Denver right now.
That's just, I mean, watching this whole situation unfold, Chandler, my at least understanding this morning was the move on Denver's behalf was to save money, but it's not even seeming like that's possible anymore.
No.
Why wouldn't you just commit to the guy and keep him for whatever his contract is next year, $38 million, however much money it is? Unless, is this contract for $80 million? Is that where the dead money's coming from?
I can pull up the exact contract, but that was just
That'd
the
be that would be because I mean that would make some more sense, I guess, because I mean paying one player like $60 million at 35 is ridiculous, unless if you're Tom Brady or something.
Okay,
So
I have the exact contract in front of me.
yeah,
Um, so the contract originally was 5 years, 242 million
okay.
and change, 243 rounding up. And what's remaining is I got to do math because this goes until 2048. In 2026 they have an out, a potential out, which is 31.2 million in dead cap, which is still an absurd amount, but is considerably less than all of the other options. And his cash average is 42 and a half. So yeah, pretty much he's making
Just
42,
I
40
think
plus million a year.
it has to be just the owners are being selfish and they're like, I
You
don't
know
want
who
to
the owners
pay
of
out
the
the
Broncos
money.
are?
Who? I don't know.
The Walmart family, the Waltons, guys who own
Bro,
Walmart.
what?
Yep.
Really?
Yes, really.
Save money, live better. That's the Broncos' new saying.
It has to be. Yeah, that's fun.
But
But
regardless,
yeah,
Russ has balled out, Chandler, since those original things have
it's
happened. He's
been
been
good.
6-3 against the Pats, even in the loss, 25 for 37, 238 yards, 2 touchdowns. This season, he's kind of returning to that Seahawks status, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, over 3,000 yards in 15 games. That's a pretty great stat line considering the terrible start that this team had, losing, giving up 70 points to the Miami Dolphins is just something that you wouldn't really expect a lot of people to come back from. Um, Credit was going towards Wilson. Credit was going towards Sean Payton. It seemed like they were kind of revitalizing themselves. I was ready for Russ to next year maybe take that next step with Denver and lead them. But like when you look at this trade from an owner's standpoint, because you got to think that the owners had some sort of push or sway in making this deal done in the first place because they wanted a franchise quarterback. Why would you do that and then have even the inkling of a possibility that Russ is going to be like a 2 year kind of bridge guy? Like it just doesn't make any sense because now you have no money, you can't rebuild, you have no draft capital. You traded a first for Sean Payton, you traded multiple firsts, Andrew Locke and everybody else for
Yeah.
Russell Wilson. It just doesn't make any sense. Why would you even make this move if you had an inkling of doubt that you were not going to keep Russell Wilson? I'd have a lot more respect for Denver and them getting fleeced in that deal if they were to just be like, you know what? We messed up. Russ isn't as good as maybe we thought he was going to be, but we're going to commit and just keep him even with this stupid contract.
But that's just it. He's not playing poorly. And the key to this is they didn't have that inkling. They had full faith in themselves because looking at this contract was signed once he was traded. So this was not a contract signed by
Wow.
Seattle.
Oh my
This
God.
contract would have him, if it were to be honored, which it seems though it definitely won't be, um, that he's going to be owed 50 million as a base salary as a 40-year-old quarterback in 2028.
Ooh.
Um, and obviously that's not going to happen. And when you think about it, like we say these high numbers that they're crazy, yada yada yada. In 2028, that'll probably be like the ninth highest quarterback contract. But now, when you have the situation where you need to cut someone, that is an absurd amount of money. 80, whatever I said, is crazy. And they really put the farm in on Russell Wilson, especially when you look at the trade. If you don't mind me getting a little GM nerdy right here, talking about the trade. The trade was Russell Wilson and a 2022 fourth round pick, which became somebody who I don't know. Ioma, nope. Somebody who I don't know. Somebody on the Broncos that may or may not still be there. For Drew Lock, Noah Fant, Shelby Harris. Those are three people that have started for the Seahawks. The number 9 pick in the 2022 draft, which became offensive tackle Charles Cross. The 2022 second, which became Boye Mafe, who's a pretty good player as well. 2022 fifth round pick being Tyreek Smith. My computer just turned off for a second. 2023 first round pick, which was with Russell Wilson as your quarterback. And do you know what that pick was, Nick? What number pick that was? It was the 5th pick in the draft.
Wow.
So they traded 2 top 10 picks, uh, 2 second round picks, a 5th round pick, and 3 starters for someone that they cut
2 years
after
later.
24 months.
Wow. And Chandler, a
Absurd.
big, yeah, oh yeah.
No,
Well,
no, that's all I have really. If you want me to list they picked that Devin Witherspoon, who's been a really nice corner for them this year, but they could have had Bijan with that pick. They could have had very likely defensive player, rookie of the year, Jalen Carter. They could have
yeah,
had Jameer Gibbs, someone who's running has led the Lions to their first division title in however many years. They've literally never won the NFC North. They won the NFC Central before.
yeah, and Chandler, a big, I guess, storm, and it's gonna take some time to settle for deciding whether or not who gets the choice of Russell Wilson when the time comes when he's cut. Whatever ends up happening is to be determined, I guess. But obviously, Patriots rumors have swirled regarding possibly landing the quarterback, especially considering our draft position, which we're about to
Yeah.
talk about. But the thing I'll weigh in on is the Athletics quote of why Wilson might be a fit for the Patriots before we move on to our draft positioning. The short answer is that the Patriots need a quarterback in 2024 after the end of the Mac Jones era. It's not clear yet who will be making the key decisions for the team this offseason, but Bill Belichick praised Wilson before their matchup last weekend, won by the Patriots. If Belichick is still around, he could be interested in a quick fix plan rather than a rebuild, potentially making Wilson an option in New England. So that obviously is another thing to weigh and something that calms me down just a little bit from our repositioning in the draft because, of course, with the win, Patriots dropped from number 2 overall in the NFL draft in 2024 to number 4 overall. And this kind of came a full circle moment, Chandler. Why I was so upset about that Steelers game, why I was still upset about this Broncos game, because if we lost both of these games, Chandler, we would be at number 1 overall right now in the NFL
Mm-hmm.
draft. We'd have a franchise quarterback in the palm of our hands, considering we lose these last 2 games of the season, which honestly, the way we've been rolling, I don't even know is guaranteed anymore. We might get
No,
to your 5-13 mark, and then I'm just gonna, just quit. I
that'd
don't know
be
what to
unreal.
say.
Yeah.
But
Um,
regardless, what do you think about the Patriots going in these next 2 weeks? Obviously, we'll talk about the Bills in a minute, but considering their current draft standings and the teams surrounding them, most of which are looking at quarterbacks, what do you think the take's going to be?
uh, the take being who we're picking.
No, I
Like,
mean, like, just I guess your take on where they'll probably land, and I guess a best scenario of where they'll land.
oh,
That's probably a better
it's
way to word
not
it.
looking good. I think that we might be picking around 7. Because I think we're going to
Ooh.
get another win. I think we're going to beat one of the teams, and it's not the one we're playing this week. Uh, and that's going to put us around 7, which is still a fine place to be. And there's a lot of weapons, along with the possibility of trading up. To which I bring this up to my dad, and he's like, Belichick never trades up. And I was like, who says Belichick's going to be in charge after this year? I think that would be, if we do theoretically get another GM and coach, that would be quite the statement to start out your time in New England to try to build a new dynasty, to trade up to, say, the second pick and get whichever quarterback is left. Because if you look back to, not that it's worked out especially well for them as they both just lost their jobs, but the Chargers front office, when they picked Justin Herbert, right before that was Tua, and Tom Telesco is quoted as saying, whichever one, it's not the exact quote, but roughly along the lines of, we were fine taking either Tua or Herbert, whichever one was left, we'll take them. If we trade up to 2, I think you can pretty much say I do have my 1 and my 2. My 1 is Drake May, my 2 is Caleb Williams, but you can pretty much have faith in either of them. And if you get Caleb Williams, maybe bring in Russell Wilson. Maybe.
That could be possible,
I'd
Chandler. But
love it.
regardless, surrounding the top 5 right now, we got Bears twice, one from the
Yep.
Panthers, one for themselves. The Commanders have resurged. They're at number 3 right now,
Yes,
and the
6 in a
Arizona
row.
Cardinals.
But they just brought in Jacoby Brissett to start. Jacoby Brissett starting.
Yeah, please get
Maybe
a
they can
win,
squeak out a
Jacoby.
win.
But
Jacoby, do New
regardless,
England a service.
it's bad news because they want a quarterback now. They're not
Sure.
committed to Sam Howell.
Yeah, I
So
know.
you could view it as, if Patriots finish 3, Commanders 2, and Cardinals drop to 4, if Murray can just win him a game, for God's sakes, please. You can possibly end up with Marvin Harrison if the Cardinals stay up and the Commanders drop. They might draft Marvin Harrison. That leaves a quarterback for you at number 3 because, they have Kyler. But if you have the Bears with the Panthers pick, obviously, and the Commanders picking in front of you, you're most likely missing out. Pretty much guaranteed you're missing out on a quarterback in the
Yeah.
top 3.
So
Landing
let's
Harrison would be nice. Don't get me
yeah.
wrong.
Hmm.
Especially, I would love to see a package of draft Harrison, sign Wilson. I would be okay with that.
It'd be really interesting. Yeah.
But say what you were gonna say, and then we'll move on to the Bills matchup this week.
Let's quickly look at the we'll say just for the sake of argument, we'll look at the top 9 picks. Oh, we'll do 10 because 10 is a better number. Um, First pick right now, Chicago. Arguably doesn't need a quarterback. I don't think that they will take one. I think that
I
they
kind
would
of do, honestly. I
I
think
think
they
they'd trade
turned
I
on
think
it.
they'd trade back. Really? Well, in that case, Justin Fields is an option to trade for
I don't
someone to
want
trade
Justin
for.
Fields.
He's better than anything we've had since Brady, by a
2021
lot.
class is cursed.
Ugh, gosh, crazy.
All right, continue.
But yeah, so Chicago debatably we'll say 50-50 on quarterback. Let's just say that. Arizona it won't take a quarterback, I don't think. And if they do, give me every single part of Kyler Murray. I would love him in New England. Washington definitely needs a quarterback. Us definitely needs a quarterback. Giants probably won't take a quarterback. They have given Daniel Jones so much money just last year. I don't think they'll take one. Chargers definitely won't take a quarterback. Titans, questionable. I don't think they'll take a quarterback, actually. I think that they will try to take one more season of Will Levis. Chicago again, talked about him. Jets have Aaron Rodgers coming back. Atlanta definitely need a quarterback, but they have 7 wins. They're not in danger
Yeah,
right now.
they're kind of out of positioning right now. So
Yeah, but they are an option to trade up. That's why I go down to 10 there. They're
yeah,
an option to trade up because they have so many weapons and horrible quarterback play. They have Bijan, Kyle Pitts, who's actually done pretty well recently, and Drake London. They have the triumvirate of the players that you would go back in time and build your team around from the past 3 years. And then they have Desmond Ritter and Taylor Heineke as the quarterback. I love Taylor Heineke. He's not able to utilize that.
yeah.
They should be heavily looking for a quarterback. They could be in the Russ conversation. They were big in the Deshaun conversation a few years ago. I guess that's a severely dodged bullet because how well Joe Flacco's doing with that team.
Shout
Um,
out Joe Flacco. I love that dude.
shout out Joey Footsteps.
I'm
Footsteps
excited,
Flacco.
bro. Hopefully, this Super Bowl trip for Emerson comes together because the second I'm trucking out there to cover Joe Flacco Super Bowl week,
Imagine that'd be
I am
unreal.
going to cover it to the moon. That's
Oh
going to be the
yeah.
best stories I could ever make.
Do you think
Let's
that's gonna
go,
be the
Joe.
Super? Do you think that's
Hell
gonna be the
no,
Super
but
Bowl?
I hope so. I'd love to
Ah,
cover Joe Flacco, bro. I love
that
him.
would be pretty sweet. Yeah, Joe Flacco.
Flacco and the Browns versus Purdy and the 49ers. Thank you,
Oh,
Brock Purdy, for screwing me over in fantasy this week. But we're going off track. Let's move to the Bills game. Why don't we?
yeah.
Injury report this week, Chandler once again did not look good.
It's everybody.
Trent Brown out, did not participate. Illness. These are all the did not participate people.
Yep.
Zeke with an illness. Mills with a concussion. Jabril Peppers with a hamstring. Juju Smith Schuster with his ankle. And then limited, we had Barmore with a knee. Bentley with a knee. Miles Bryant chest. Hunter Henry knee. Anthony Jennings, a new addition with a knee injury. Jonathan Jones knee. Matthew Slater hamstring. Sean Wade hip. And Tyron Wheatley, thank God he is back.
Yes.
Full participant with a knee injury. But Chandler, heading into this week against the Bills, obviously the last time we faced off against Buffalo, it was a revolutionary game for Mac Jones.
Yep.
I thought he had reasserted himself in New England, had that game-winning drive, 75 yards, cashed in on the
Hmm.
touchdown, 13 seconds left to Mike Gesicki. The gritty heard all around the world before we lost 20 games in a row. But regardless, this time a key change. Bailey Zappi enters the lineup for this matchup
Yep.
against Buffalo. Now, one thing to note, Chandler, Zappi obviously coming off this game, big drive to close out, get the Patriots into field goal range.
Yeah, that one pass of that. Obviously, the kick had to be. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I went
I mean,
football nerd
honestly,
second.
bro, after Zappi's performance, I thought, he's all right. Maybe he'll be our backup next year.
He could
I'm
be.
I'm content.
Another person again, I will go on a quick diatribe. I will keep this to 60 seconds. The mental fortitude, again, how we just talked about Chad Ryland, for Zappy to get cut at the beginning of the season, to go to the lowest low. There was a report that he had a conversation with Kurt Warner right when he got cut, which is the perfect conversation because, of course, Kurt Warner got cut, played in the Arena Football League, and then won an MVP in his first year back. All-star, a Hall of Fame quarterback, excellent guy. I think I actually called the game, which is funny enough. But to have the fortitude to get through getting cut and then to come back and be the backup and then see how bad Mac Jones was and then to get in and actually do the thing. Full credit to Bailey Zappi. He's still
Shout out
not
Zappy.
our future quarterback, but shout out Bailey Zappi.
And he also endured endless hate from the At the Pylon podcast.
So
Still
much, so
survived.
much. Hands up,
Has
hand up.
won us multiple games. Zappy, I am sorry, but
Zappy
regardless,
holidays, everyone.
I still don't want you back next year. But still, Patriots, they have another chance, Chandler. Josh Allen was talking about it this week. This is a must-win game for Buffalo, similar to Denver. It was a must-win game for Denver. Do the Patriots have a chance, Chandler, at ruining the Buffalo Bills season?
I mean, we do because we've seen how inconsistent this Buffalo offense can be. As much as people are wanting to bring back the Josh Allen MVP train, it's not happening. We've seen how Gabe Davis had a really good week last week, but they're real weapons. Stephon Diggs, much to the detriment of my fantasy team, somehow I keep surviving. Um, Stephon Diggs has not been good. I think it's been 8 games since he had 100 yards in a game, which for someone who is arguably a top 3 receiver in football is a horrible statistic. It's a horrible run. In Buffalo, they've won 3 in a row, but it's all really, really could end here because much like much like Denver, Buffalo has also had a pretty pedestrian play calling setup this year, which is why we beat them in the first game.
And similar to Denver, the percentage rates from before and after this game are jarring, to say the least. Right now, the Buffalo Bills have an 88% chance of making the playoffs. If
Yep.
they win, they're locked in at 97%. If
Yes.
they lose, they drop all the way down to a 46% chance of qualifying for
Yeah.
the playoffs. So
That's
this is a
tight.
big game. Regardless, Patriots, obviously, they have nothing to play for besides just stabbing us
We're
in
the
the
Grim
heart,
Reaper.
killing
We're the
us,
Grim Reaper.
and
Kill every team's
killing our
playoff.
fan base and dropping us down in the draft.
Yeah.
But regardless, I think it's time, Chandler. Let's dive into some keys. I'll start us off. Going into this game against the Bills, you got Josh Allen in there. Like you said, Chandler, a very pedestrian, I guess, play calling circumstance from the Bills so far this year. But one thing that's sort of consistent is Josh Allen's ability to scramble. That leads to my first key. You got to shut him down. Don't let him start running all over you. This Patriots defense has revitalized themselves from a
Yeah.
play calling perspective over these past 4 years to really try and contain scrambling quarterbacks. Back in the early days of Lamar, he used to shred us like it was a knife through warm butter. But now it seems that we have a better structure to kind of put up with that. It's going to be extremely important this week if the Pats want to win. You got to hold Allen to the pocket and sack him. Next off, we got to get more rushing yards. Zeke had a great game last game, 9 receptions. That obviously that hurdle touchdown that we talked about, but he was the number 1 rusher on the team, but rushed under 30 yards on 12 attempts.
Yeah.
That's a big loss, I guess, in terms of a rushing offense that was just non-existent in that game. You got to revitalize the running game if you want a chance in this one, especially against Buffalo, who don't have a great run defense. Last but not least, Zappy, we gave you your flowers for last game, but one big flaw was that first fumble of the game. Broncos cash into the goal line. That's a totally different scenario that you're playing in. You got to hold on to the ball. I know our offensive line is weaker. I know we're going against definitely a tough front 7 in Buffalo, but Zappy needs to just work on holding onto the ball or do what you do best. Like, throw it away. This is what you have over Mac Jones. You know how to throw away the ball. Just throw it out of bounds. Don't take a sack. Stop trying to do too much. Hold on to the ball. Those are my 3 keys. Chandler, what do you think?
All right. So my first key is going to be that we need to stop James Cook. James Cook is their number one running back. I don't actually know what the deal with Damian Harris is because I know he's on the Bills. I don't know if he's had a season-ending injury.
He did. Remember, he got ambulanced out
Oh my, yes, you're right.
on the
I was
Damar
gonna say
Hamlin
I hadn't.
ambulance.
Yes, yeah, I do remember that actually. So point being, their run game needs to be stopped. Josh Allen hasn't thrown for more than 300 yards in a win in I think 2 months. So if they've really been relying on their run game, they had a game where they beat the Cowboys and they threw for under 100 yards, but James Cook rushed for I think it was 178. Yeah, great performance. Stopping their run is going to be key number one. Number two, I agree that they don't have a great run defense, but they have a really deep set of edge rushers. So we need to protect Bailey Zappi. If he gets hit a lot, we're going to have a tough day because they do have a pretty good secondary with a lot of capital invested in that. So if we can stop them from getting hits on Zappi, get a clean pocket, as much of a gunslinger as Zappi can be sometimes, he does know to throw the ball away, and he can throw a nice little seam shot every once in a while. So if we can see that, that
Yep.
would be a nice key. And the last one being, like I said, hold Josh Allen under 250 passing yards. If we do that, they're going to be really struggling.
Chandler, I have the Pats unfortunately losing this game 24-21. What's your score prediction?
38-10 loss.
Wow.
Yep. I think this
Brutal.
is the
Falling.
comeback to reality.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be too mad at that if the Pats get a good draft pick, but regardless, try your best to enjoy the game this Sunday. We'll be back next Monday for a full preview alongside Chandler Betts. My name is Nick Antonakis. We'll see you back here next week for more at the Pylon.